Get Gutsy, episode number 152 with Christine McAlister on What Else? Welcome to Get Gutsy. I'm your host, Jenny Fennig, and I am so excited to be on this journey with you. A cutting edge show blending business and spirituality, Get Gutsy serves up a potent blend of stories, lessons, and tips to help you make a massive impact in the world through your soul's work and your inspired life. No more going it alone, no more excuses. The world needs more brave women saying yes to leadership. Are you with me? Good. Let's get gutsy now. Hey everybody, Jenny here. Welcome back to Get Gutsy. Oh my goodness, this is the first intro I'm doing since Hurricane Harvey. And I simply am saying I love you all, and I'm so sorry to anyone who was in the path of that storm and all the aftermath you are dealing with. I am very empathic. I feel things. I've been feeling it all during the storm, after, still today. It's just one of those whoa, whoa, nature. Mother Nature. I was really touched by just how humans can rally together and work together to help each other out. And so I'm hoping that that spirit of generosity and kindness and love continues on and on and on and on. I also was taken by a lot of the shaming that was happening online. I talked about this on social media. When traumas happen, and Harvey was definitely a trauma, is a trauma, trauma leads to shaming because everybody does trauma differently. And when we get into these traumatic situations, there's a lot of finger pointing. This person didn't do it the way I think they should have done it on the timetable. I think they should have done it. This person shouldn't have worn that. They should have worn this. It's like all of the shaming happens as a result of the trauma, which leads to more trauma, which leads to more shaming. It's a very, very interesting quandary. And so I am hereby saying, let's stop with the shaming, let's stop with the name calling and the throwing of the barbs and the judgment, and let's simply throw love and forgiveness and kindness around instead. It's not easy, especially when we're on the internet. I'm telling you, there's this digital divide that happens where people forget to be human, and they will say things on there that they would never say in real life, in someone's face, in a room, in a real room, like a physical room. So I am putting out this rally cry for all of us in this community to step up and step forward with kindness and call out when there's not kindness, and we can do that in loving yet firm ways. All right, so again, so much love sent out to our Texas and Louisiana listeners, all your family members, anybody who was impacted. I have a cousin who lives in Houston, and miraculously, her home and her immediate neighborhood were safe. They weren't impacted by flooding, but she tells me that a mile down the road, very different story. Like, neighbors lost everything. So she did say that they would love to receive things that she will distribute to her people. So I packed up some of my kids' old clothes and things that we just were ready to pass on, and sent those her way. And I know that they're getting into good hands. I've donated money, and I am so excited that those who bought tickets to come to our Soul of Service online gathering, where I am hosting the amazing Danielle Laporte this month. We're now in September. I just felt called to donate 100% of the profits of that, of those ticket sales, to the American Red Cross. And so there's ways that we can help and contribute, and just figure it out for yourself and do what feels right. Okay, so I'm grateful for the work that I do and how it can tie into helping the planet and helping those in need, and then helping my students and clients who step forward and want to do their thing and grow their body of work and help their people. And it's just this one giant loop, one giant loop. So before I tell you about the episode, I want to let you know that number one, welcome to September. If you're in the US, we just celebrated Labor Day. And this is going to be a massive, massive month. I've got some big projects brewing. I'm going to be opening up applications for my extraordinary mastermind, which is called Glow, very soon. So keep your eyes open for that. Before we open apps, we're going to offer up a super exciting challenge called the High Vibe Challenge. That's going to be happening later on this week. I'll let you know when not this week, but later on this month. I'll let you know when what is it? When you can sign up for the challenge. It's really, I love leading challenges. My challenges are hot, 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 and they're an opportunity to come together with fellow leaders and put your work out there in a very structured, focused way. And so I'm going to be leading a challenge. I'm going to be leading a master class online and just helping you. I want to help you get out there and do your thing on a much grander scale, on a scale that where you feel like you're totally in alignment with the work that your soul is here to do. Okay, so keep your eyes open for that. All right, so let me tell you about this episode. My husband just popped his head in, so I'm going to wrap up this intro and go do what needs to be done as a mom and a wife and Jenny. So today I have an extraordinary guest for you. Her name is Christine McAlister, and she is so her story just is, you're gonna, my kids just walked in here and now they're leaving again. This is life. Her story, I mean, brought me to tears. You're probably going to get emotional when you hear it. Yeah, so you may want to have some tissues around or just let the tears flow. I mean, honestly, you don't even need tissues. Just let the tears flow. Uh, she is going to tell you about an unimaginable tragedy that she experienced and what happened in the aftermath. Her world was turned upside down, and she had to figure out how to go on. She did. And eventually she asked herself, what else? What else? She had been through the worst possible thing she could imagine, and she made a choice to move forward. She now has a wonderful business, living her life with passion and helping others do the same. And she shares some valuable insights on the entrepreneur path and mistakes that new business owners often make around investing in their business and getting the right type of support. And I mean, she's a warrior. She has been through hell and back, and she has kept on going. And Christine, shout out as you listen to this. Thanks so much for those wonderful teas that you sent me. Christine knows that I love tea, or I don't know if you knew that, Christine, or not, but you sent these teas and they were so freaking good. And I'm very, very grateful for your generosity of sharing your story and then sending me one of my favorite things in the world, which is tea. So if you've had hard things happen, and especially those who've been impacted by Harvey, you have had hard things happen. And even if you weren't living in the eye of the storm, we were all feeling that. I know, especially those of us in the US, we were feeling that. And so, what do you do when your world is turned upside down? This episode is couldn't come at a better time, and it is my honor to introduce you to the amazing Christine McAlister. Oh, Christine, welcome to Get Gutsy. So pumped to have you here.
Thanks, Jenny. Me too.
Yeah, we're gonna have a good time together. I can feel that. I can feel that. How are we connected? How are we connected? Are we connected?
How are we connected?
Yeah. Well, like, how did we first, like, how did you find out about this show? Like, sometimes we have similar people in common. Did you just apply to be on the show? Like, refresh my memory.
Yes. So I just came across your show and I
Mm-hmm.
loved it. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought I'd love to connect with her there.
Perfect. Okay. I love it. Because, like, that's the neat thing about this show is that that like these connections get made, that someone will listen like, oh, I want to be on the show, and then they'll pitch themselves to be on the show. Other times, like, I may know somebody from some group and it's like, oh, I'm looking for guests, and so they'll come on through that way. And I always forget, but I'm like, how did this happen? And so I like to ask, which is neat. Recently I had somebody interviewed somebody, and she pitched herself for the show, and I didn't realize she had written it, and I forgot, but she like read my book a few years back when she was really, really unhappy in her corporate life. And my book was like her lifeline. I was like, how did you even know about it? She's like, I think I just Googled one day and it just came up like unhappy in corporate or something like that. And she said that book like saved her life. She read it on this flight, and then I had her on my show, and it was so neat. And I think, for those of us who've chosen to be in this podcasting realm, it's a great world to be in. It's also a lot of work. It's discipline, it's commitment, showing up and dealing with all the details and the tech and, the guests, the communications and logistics. But the benefit is like we get a chance to have these really juicy, genuine conversations with people you'd want to talk to anyway. And that's the sense that I get with you, Christine. So your whole mission, that's what I want to really start our conversation diving into this, is obviously, living with passion. Your company's called Life with Passion, and you are an expert on turning tragedy into business and life triumph. Why?
Yes, yes, that is truly my mission. So I have been an entrepreneur for a long time. I started my first business on the side in 2005, the year after I got out of school. I was in a 9 to 5, but I always knew that was something that I wanted for my life. And so I started without really knowing how or what it was going to look like. And I eventually quit my job, right? Like,
what were you doing? What were you doing for work?
I was doing, in my full-time job, I was a professor at my alma mater.
Neat.
Yeah, which is very cool in a lot of ways. I love to teach. And then I became a career counselor.
Neat.
And so that was very fulfilling, except I was a career counselor and I was like, but I don't love my career.
So you're like trying to counsel yourself when you're counseling other students,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
people.
Exactly. So when I quit my job and I went full time into online marketing for small businesses, which is what I've been doing on the side for several years by that point. And I liked it and I was really good at it, but it wasn't everything, right? Like there was something else, but I also knew that people were happy to pay me for what I did, and I always had as many clients as I wanted, and it was fairly comfortable.
Right.
So it just kind of kept me in status quo until early 2015. And I knew that things were about to change for me in some way or another because I was expecting my first baby. And so I thought, well, I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm going to figure it out, right? I figured everything else out. So right before her due date, finished our baby showers. We put the car seat in the car. We went to a routine doctor appointment to, find out how close I was to going into labor. And they couldn't find her heartbeat.
Oh my God.
And so that was the moment, right? That was the moment that everything changed. So I went from this doctor appointment to another doctor appointment where they're hoping that the first ultrasound machine was broken.
Right.
And please God, let it be,
Yeah.
And it turned out that she had passed away sometime in the previous few days. We had no indication.
You didn't feel anything inside of you change?
No.
Wow.
And we did not... nobody had seen anything different, right? On the ultrasound, like it was a perfect pregnancy up to that point.
Wow.
And so it was totally inexplicable.
How many weeks were you? Like how many weeks?
37.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yep. So it was time to have a baby. And so I went straight to the hospital and they started inducing me because I had to deliver her.
Oh my gosh. So you're getting induced to deliver a child who has died inside of you.
Yep. And they're handing me pamphlets going, you need to plan a funeral. And I was like, but I'm still pregnant. Like, this is not a thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
What? This is like the stuff from the baby shower 48 hours ago is still
Right. That's
ready to be
real. I have
unpacked.
presents. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah. The crib is up, everything's ready.
Yeah, we're ready. I did everything right. Mhm.
Exactly. I did everything right. And so that just turned my world upside down.
Mhm. Oh my
And,
gosh.
you know, I mean, 24 hours after I started being induced, I delivered her. And
How was that like when was it a natural thing? Did they give you an epidural? Like what happens in that situation?
yeah, so when they first told me that she was gone, I looked at them and I said, "You just got to knock me out and get this over with. Like I can't do it. I cannot do it."
Right. It's like when you know that you're meeting your alive child on the other end. I mean, it's still hard because I've done it. I have three kids. So yeah, yeah. So you're just like just knock me out and get it over with. Hmm.
Right. And they said, "Well, we can, but we know that it's going to help your grieving process if you're
The
aware of what's going
and
on."
the hormones and like the oxytocin and things like that. Hmm.
Yes.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
said, "Okay, if you say so." And
Hmm.
I had planned for a natural childbirth,
Yep.
but they just looked at me and they said, "We're inducing you, and really a lot of the reason you were doing this is for your child, and
Hmm.
that's no longer a factor. Like, make
Hmm.
yourself comfortable, basically."
Hmm.
And so I decided that I didn't want to recover from a C-section if it was an option for me.
Right.
And so I decided to go ahead and deliver with an epidural.
Hmm.
And so my body was not ready, and so it took them a while, pre oxytocin and all of that,
Hmm.
to um, to get me even prepared to start
Right.
facing contractions and everything. And
Right.
so that took a while, and I just hung out, and then I just sat there until I got so uncomfortable that then I had them come in and give me the epidural. And it was still a very, well, obviously emotionally
Oh
difficult,
my
but it was still a
gosh.
very physically difficult labor as well.
Gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is like so intense. And so you're going through this and are you're married at the time? Like your husband's
Yes.
in here. Okay. And so you're like doing how are you both going through this together? You're in a state of shock, I'm guessing, and then just like but we have to do I mean, and you're the woman who has the human inside of you. And so you
Right.
you can't just be like just okay, well, let's move like you have to do something about it.
Right. And we both needed a ton of support because I was quite nervous
Mhm.
to become a mom, but he
Mhm.
was like so ready. He
Oh.
had been very involved in the pregnancy and,
Mhm.
was just so excited. And so I just kind of went into I've got to get through this mode because I knew I was going to have to, right, in order to deliver this baby. And he was very emotional. And so we had hired a doula because I
Yep.
was planning a natural childbirth. And
Right.
so she was a wonderful support to both of us. And I called my mom and had her come up. And, so I just kind of made sure one of the two of them was with one of us at all times.
Yes. Good plan. Mhm.
And that, I mean, we just did it. We had a really supportive team. The hospital had bereavement trained nurses, and so they put us in a quiet room. They covered the pictures of happy babies that were on the walls. They put a
Mhm.
little sign on our door so that people knew what was going
Mhm.
down inside. And
Right.
I I mean, that was our world, was that little room for the next couple of days.
Mm. Wow. Wow. So you go through this process. Your baby is born eventually. You push the baby out.
Yes.
Wow. And then what happens? Like what happens? Do you hold a child? Like how did that all work?
Yeah, so they asked us, "What do you want to do?
Hmm.
How do you want us to handle this? Like the birth, how closely to your birth plan?" Because of course we had one because we were major planners.
Yeah.
How closely do you want to stick? And I just looked at them and I said, "I don't know. Like I
Hmm.
have no idea how to make these decisions." So I kind of deferred to them,
Hmm.
and they, let us see her. And then what they did was the nurse took her away and gave her a bath and dressed her in this beautiful gown that had been provided for situations like this
Wow.
and brought her back. And we had been told we should take lots of pictures, which to me at the time seemed like the most absurd thing ever, and why.
Right.
But we had a photographer come in, and she had never shot a birth before. She was a wedding photographer, but it was, the middle of the night on in the worst snowstorm our city had ever seen.
Where do you live? Where did you live?
At the time, I lived in Lexington, Kentucky.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so it was an insane amount of snow. Of course, the roads aren't prepared. Everything's closed except the hospital.
Mm.
And this photographer had been called by a friend of hers who was originally called. And she said, "You live closer to the hospital." She was from Finland, so she wasn't afraid of snow.
Uh-huh.
"Can you get in the car and drive over and help this family?" And so she showed up. She shot the whole birth. She shot all these pictures. She shot the memorial service that we held with the chaplain who also fought her way across town to be there for us in the snow. And that's what we did.
Mm. My goodness. My goodness. And so you have this wild experience so opposite of what you thought it was going to be. Then what do you do?
So we had to decide how long we wanted to stay because we knew that was the only time we were going to get with her.
Mm-hmm.
And, I knew that, and my husband knew, like, no matter how much time, it's never going to be enough.
Mm-hmm.
And part of us just is craving some like normalcy. I just want to go home, but then I want to pack a bag and get out of town because I just can't, right? In the house with the nursery and everything.
Yeah.
But then we had to do things like go to the funeral home and make those arrangements and, just recover from childbirth, like minor things like that, right?
Yeah.
Pick up the pieces of what we thought our life was going to look like.
Right.
And so wound up going home fairly quickly and having to have somebody come to take us home because we couldn't drive. We didn't have a 4x4 truck and the roads were unpassable.
Mm.
But we had a friend who came and got us, and we went home, stayed home long enough to be able to do what we needed to do, go see her at the funeral home, say goodbye one last time. And we packed up and left town and went to stay with my parents for a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just started to walked around crying and sleeping and crying and doing all the, my milk came in,
Your body. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my body did not know.
Your body did what it was supposed to do, and it was just, did you ever get any clarity on what happened, or was it just one of those flukes that nobody knows?
Yeah, they told us that we probably would never know because it was such a sudden thing, and that turned out to be the case. So they ran every test on me that they could think of, and everything came back normal. And it's just one of those things. Like, we will never know, at least here on Earth, why.
Right.
And she, other than having had passed away, she was perfect.
Right. And so when she was born, she looks like this regular baby.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And she looked like me, and it just was inexplicable.
Right. It's like one of those, this doesn't happen, but yet it happened. And there's and that's really tragedy, right? You have these situations that are so rare. And I think that's why thank you for sharing this story. I mean, it was so heartbreaking. I have tears in my eyes, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. Having had 3 kids of my own, it just makes me grateful. But my heart breaks for you and your husband and what you went through. I mean, I've gone through my own tragedies with, losing a sister when I was a teenager. She died of cancer. She was 12. Like, that doesn't happen, right? It's like, you had this pregnancy and this child growing inside of you, and like what happened, like that doesn't happen, but yet it happened. And with my sister, like a 12-year-old girl doesn't die from cancer. Like a 12-year-old sister doesn't die from cancer. I didn't know anybody who that happened to, but it happened to me. And then my best friend's brother died 6 months later, and then that same best friend died like 2 years later.
Mm.
Yeah. So for me, tragedy, yeah, these things, like those things don't happen. And those two, the best friend and her brother, they were the only children of those
Mm.
parents. And so that doesn't happen, right? Two different,
Right.
but it happens. It does. And that is tragedy. And then what really matters is, what do you do? What do you do? How do you move through it? How do you grieve? How do you try to make sense of the unimaginable, of things that aren't fair, that you weren't planning for, that you're angry about, you're crushed by? How do you continue living? Because many people don't know how to do that. They don't
Yes.
want to, and so you went to your parents to grieve, kind of find your way forward. How did you get to a place of saying, I'm not gonna stop living, or I'm gonna find some meaning or some purpose, like, because obviously you found that for yourself, because that's what you help others do. Walk us through your process.
Yes. I think I realized really early on that I had a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I grew up in a happy home, and I always would think about how the struggles that I had with anxiety and self-doubt and various other things, like, I felt like I didn't have a reason for them,
Mm-hmm.
because I hadn't gone through something
Ah.
really, really remarkable like this on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
So I was hard on myself about that.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow losing my daughter Maeve, I looked at this and I went, like you said, this doesn't happen. It's happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to lock myself in a room with wine for the rest of my life?
Uh-huh.
I love wine.
Mm-hmm.
um, am I going to? Is it going to do that to me,
Mm-hmm.
or am I going to make some meaning out of this?
Mm-hmm.
For myself and for her, right? Because I realized I was now responsible for her legacy. Like, she wasn't
Right.
here to make her legacy, and so
Mm-hmm.
I wanted her to be proud of me. I wanted her to have a legacy that she was proud of, and sort of self-doubt and fear be damned, because you know what? I've already been through the worst thing. Like, I'm not
Right.
scared of what people are going to think of me anymore.
Right. Right. Right.
And I think that was the first time in my life that I ever really felt that way, because I came face to face with a lot of people's expectations of me. I'd sort of been like taking care of a lot of people pleasing, high achiever who was like taking care of other people's businesses and helping other people, and our relationships a lot of times were more weighted toward them than me because I was so capable and blah blah blah.
Right.
And now I realize, like, I can't take care of anyone else. I'm really doing well if I take a shower every few days.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is taking care of myself. That is self-care. And so I realized this is my chance to rediscover who I really am, what I want out of the world and out of life, and how I want to show up for Maeve as well.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's your daughter's name.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so I continued my work. I continued taking care of my clients, but I started the journey of asking the questions of what else. And so where that led me was finding somebody who was having a lot more success in their business, able to grow and scale in ways that I hadn't figured out yet, and going, you know what? If there's something I don't have, maybe there's just something I don't know. And I hired, my first coach to help me figure out basically how to scale that online marketing business. And then in the process, I realized my favorite part of it had always been the strategy, the insight, the sort of the plan, and the encouragement and motivation to these small business owners that it was possible. And so I realized that in my own spare time, what I had been doing was working to empower other women to become entrepreneurs. Like, that was my passion.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just kind of doing it, like, to my friends and my family, and like, whether or not they wanted it, I was trying to convince them to become entrepreneurs, because
Yeah.
I was
You're like,
actually,
it's so awesome. They're like, I don't even like business. You're like, it's so, you don't need to.
exactly. I could totally help you figure this out, and you'll be so great at XYZ.
Yeah.
So I turned that energy toward starting to empower women who actually wanted to quit their jobs and wanted to start their own businesses or wanted to grow a stalled business, and to teach them how to do it online and to be free, to travel and do the things that they loved and spend time with their animals like I do. And so it started just like that. And it has become, a minor movement over the past couple of years.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So you really just, yeah, you use this as fuel. You made that choice. And how did you realize that the whole online entrepreneurship for women world existed? Because I know I had my way I realized it, because for me, I didn't even know it was here. And then I was like, whoa, I walked into the room like, oh, okay. Wow, this is exciting. How did you find this place?
Yeah, it's so true that you say that, because I was doing online marketing for small businesses, right?
Okay.
Facebook ads expert, website
Got it.
expert, all the social media, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And then, but I was doing it on my own, and I was surrounded by guys my age who were in business. Like, I really didn't have many entrepreneurial female friends.
Uh-huh.
And so that was part of the reason I think I was taking such a stand. Well, when I hired my first coach, I got put in her private Facebook group, and that was literally the first Facebook group I had ever been in. Like,
Wow.
I'm not a big blog reader. I'm not a big like online community everywhere kind of
Yeah.
person.
Uh-huh.
I'm an introvert, and I love a party where I know everybody in the room.
Right, right.
So that was my introduction to this being a thing.
Uh-huh. Was hiring that first coach and being in the Facebook group that she had created for her clients.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, along the way, when I decided to start Life with Passion, then I started looking at, hey, maybe I could use all this online marketing expertise I've used to help other clients grow their business internationally for myself. What's the way to create a community that feels safe for people like me who are not in 5 million Facebook groups,
Right.
who maybe are a little more private online, but who really want to create online businesses and get visible in a way that feels comfortable and helps them grow their confidence and doesn't feel icky because they feel like they're oversharing.
Right.
But that is this really beautiful, genuine, authentic use of their gifts and talents.
Yeah, beautiful. And it started with that initial decision that you made to hire that coach. And I say that to a lot of, my students or, people who are coming in to, I have a mastermind, so I have high level clients, and I'll share with them my journey of me figuring out this whole world existed was when I went to my first female entrepreneurs conference. But I was listening to a teleclass, which I think they're still out there, but you don't hear about them anymore. Teleclasses have been replaced by the webinar and by Facebook Live. Okay, live streams. But they were cool back in the day. Back in 2009 is when I listened to my first ever I probably listened to my first ever one in 2008 when I was training to become a coach. But it was 2009 that I was like, all right, I gotta figure out how to build this business. And I was listening to a teleclass by Allie Brown, who was one of my first guests on the show. She was like my original mentor. She's like the OG, the original godmother of this industry. And she was talking about fear, and I had a lot of fear. I was freaking out because I'm doing the numbers and I'm like, this isn't working numbers wise. Come from the corporate world and I was making good money, and then I was trying to figure out how to do this coaching thing, and I wasn't making good money, and I knew that the numbers weren't gonna sustain themselves. So I was listening to her teleclass, and then she's pitching her event, which was called Shine. And I literally am like researching plane tickets while I'm on her teleclass, going, I've got to get there. Like, I
Mm,
have to get there. And then I'm in that room around hundreds of other female entrepreneurs doing business online, learning about marketing and making offers and sales and, putting yourself out there. And I just said, whoa, I'm home. I'm home. These are my
wow.
people. These are my people. But it was by, joining her program. At the time, it was a 5-figure investment, freaked me out, but I knew I had to do it. That not only did I learn for myself, get the content and the experience, but I also was seeing, how did she design it? How was it put together? How is it delivered? What kind of technology? And that is so critical. I want our listeners to take that in, that you can take, have like two lenses that you wear when you come into something. So you come in as a student, and you're going through the experience, and you're learning and you're growing and you're doing the work. But then you're also putting on that CEO hat and saying, what are these decisions that the leader has made in terms of the program design and delivery and the tech that are used. And let me tell you, when you go in with that perspective and with that intention, the ROI you can get from those investments is massive, because it's from there
Mhm.
that you say, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a program that has, XYZ in it. And then you go launch it. And you
Yep.
keep launching it, or then it evolves into something else. But many people don't get it, and they're starting out, and they're just like, "Well, that's an expense." And you're like, "Well, dudes, if you're not
Yes.
willing to make to have some expenses and to make investments in this realm, then you're not going to go far." The online marketing world is awesome. Our overhead doesn't have to be high. It can be as high as you want it to be, but we're not a brick and mortar operation where you have rent and, you have all these other expenses that come along with that. This is a great realm to be in, but you do have to be willing to make some of those investments. So for you, was that first coach, you said, ooh, this whole online community thing, and then did you start? What was like your first offering that you made for your women and helping them build businesses online?
Yeah. So I got started, and then I realized about halfway through the program that I wanted to start life with passion. And so I just really started with what I, to your point, had seen and been
Yep.
taught, which was a 3-month coaching program.
Yep.
And, weekly calls and lots of email support. And I wound up working with a lot of women who were in 9 to 5s that they hated and really unhappy, but not sure what else to do.
Yep.
And so I got to use my career counseling skills,
Yeah. Yeah.
and do that exploration. They weren't ready to start businesses yet, but they were ready to understand what they could do and
Yes.
identify their unique gifts and like begin to believe that it was possible to
Yes.
build an online business. So that was so exciting and so gratifying
Mm-hmm.
because, I knew how it felt to spend years in a job where I
Mm-hmm.
just dreaded going to work every morning
Totally.
and, was drained when I came home
Mm-hmm.
every night. And I just so take a stand for women to be able to create something better than that for themselves. And like
Mm-hmm.
you said, the barrier to entry has never been lower for us to get into entrepreneurship. But I think there's also often this false, like, well, I shouldn't have to spend any money. Like, I should
Right.
just be able to go out and do it on my own because I think you and I both work with high achievers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, I just figured this out, like independent
Mm-hmm.
woman, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then so I shouldn't have to pay somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But your timeline, your results, all of that
Mm-hmm.
speeds up so much of the overwhelm that accompanies us when we have a million people telling us we should do it their way. That's a
Yep.
million different ways,
Yep.
right? As opposed to like what's actually right for you, what excites you, what excites your people, like having somebody with eyes on your business. I know how valuable that's been for me. I know how valuable it is for my clients. And I also know that a lot of times just paying for something makes you take it more seriously, right? Like that's how you pay,
Absolutely.
that cheapens. So it's a way of giving yourself that accountability to actually show up for your business rather than just continuing to like download every freebie that's out there.
Totally. Oh my gosh. You can't grow your business on free webinars and PDF cheat sheets alone. They're great. That'll get you going. But I find that many of the earlier stage entrepreneurs, they just kind of like overdose on free
Yes.
content, and then they're
Yes.
just spinning their wheels. And because you've invested time, but you haven't invested money, is a totally different thing. And it could just be a few $100s, just get some
Yep.
skin in the game. And then you go into a few $1,000, and that's a different level of skin in the game. It does. It accelerates your results. You make wiser decisions because you just feel like you've got something on the line, and you don't want to waste the money. You want to bring your best to it, and I want our listeners really take that in. You got to make investments this year. You just have to. And you don't have to spend, on everything that comes your way. You have to be discerning about opportunities, but you do have to get good at making decisions and not like freaking out anytime you spend money. I mean, there's still times when, it's interesting about money. You have an expense and you're just like, I mean, for me, sometimes I feel like I'm going to throw up. I'm like,
Mhm. Yeah,
okay,
me too.
okay, all right, here we go, here we go. But then you do it, and you like, oh, and then you have the energy on the other side going, all right, I've just made an investment. What am I going to do? What am I going to do to capitalize on that? And it requires you to really step up, move into another realm, and then it opens up all these other opportunities when you maximize it correctly. And trust me, I've freaking fallen on my face a lot of times, made some decisions that I thought were wise at that time. And then as I get through it, going, you know what? I'm not going to do it like that next time. But I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known if I wouldn't have just tried it. And so, have you had that experience also, where you make what you think is the right decision in that moment, and then you learn later, okay, you know what? We're going to make a pivot next time, or we're going to change it now because it's not working the way I thought it was going to work.
Yes. Yes. I think one of the big ahas for me was the the decision to, after my first program
Mm-hmm.
ended,
Mm-hmm.
to get into another group program
Mm-hmm.
with a coach I really felt I could learn from,
Mm-hmm.
but who didn't have any one-on-one spots.
Mm-hmm.
And so for a time that was good, but what very, very quickly happened is that I outgrew the group program, which was
Yep.
a starting program, and it actually became frustrating for me, right? Like I definitely got my investment out of it, but in terms of the group aspect,
Mm-hmm.
I found it got to a point where it was draining for me because I was
Right.
ahead of everybody else. And what I really
Yes.
needed
Mm-hmm.
was somebody high level, one on one,
Mm-hmm.
super supportive, willing to go deep with me like I do with my clients,
Right.
and like help me get to that sort of out there thing that everybody talks about, the next level, right?
Yes, 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 yes. I know that beloved next level.
Yeah.
So you learned that by being in it, going, "Hey, I got my money's worth." But you realize that the makeup of a group at that stage in your business was really critical. If you were light years ahead of everyone else, then it was just kind of dragging you down. It wasn't a good use of your energy to be, on those calls or however that was designed, and you needed something different.
Yes, exactly. And that was great. I was grateful to have that experience
Mm-hmm.
because now I know that that's a conversation I can have with women too. And
Mm-hmm.
I was just speaking to someone this morning actually who said, "Well, I'm in a mastermind that's wrapping up and it's not really doing it for me." "Oh, but it was at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
but now it's not." And I went, "Totally, and that's okay. Like
Mm-hmm.
that, it's still valuable. You're still
Mm-hmm.
going to take lessons away from it,
Mm-hmm.
but that informs what you do next for support."
Absolutely. Yes. Oh my gosh, so much yes. And like honestly, that's what should happen, like
That's right.
right? If you're doing the work, you get to that point. Now, I have a mastermind, I have certain clients so they'll want to go for another round because we don't cover the same stuff. Like I really will redesign it, and again I vibe on the pulse of the group, and that's
Mm-hmm.
fun for me. But not every program is like that, not every experience is like that. And so you just have to figure out like, what do you need to get to whatever that next level feels like for you? Is it that one-on-one coaching? For me, honestly, Christine, when this goes live, I will have already done it, but we're recording this. I'm leaving in less than 2 weeks to go to India. For me, this year was like less time so focused on like going to business events and conferences. I've had many years of that, many years. And my last corporate job, I was a conference producer, and so I was around business events like all the time. That's what I lived and breathed, and it was like everything. And I got to the point as I'm turning 40 this year where I'm just like, you know what? I've done that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I had a great time. And I'm not saying I won't go back into that realm. But for me this year, it was something different. It was, I want to spend time with my family. I want to
Mm.
go on a vacation with them and not be like, well, there's this conference going on, so we can't go on spring break. It's like, screw that. I'm going on a really cool cruise with y'all. And then I'm going to India to celebrate my 40th birthday to go deeper into my spiritual practice, which definitely I'm going to use in my
Mm.
business. Absolutely, because this is what I teach my people. This is about mindfulness and that your thoughts become things, and that we have these wisdom to share with our people, whether that be marketing wisdom or how to believe that you can be your best asset or your biggest enemy. Like, this is everything that I do. But I kind of approached it a different way this year. It's like, I feel like business is a series of experiments, and just saying, what, this time I'm going to do it like this and see what happens, and just bringing
Yeah.
this curiosity to what you do. And so, what would you say have been just like, what's your vibe on business now and life now? You've been through this, heartbreaking tragedy. You came through it. Now you teach your people how to rise up after the unthinkable happens to them. Like, what is it that what is the energy that you're really kind of marinating in right now that you want to share with our listeners as we round out this episode?
Hmm. I love that question. I would say it's the idea of both, the
Mm,
idea of duality, of learning to live in the grays,
mm,
that not everything is one or the other. In fact, just about nothing is.
mm, mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
so when things happen that appear to be negative,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
What what are we meant to learn from them, as cheesy as that can sometimes sound?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I find that a lot of the discussions I'm having with my clients in my community right now
mm-hmm,
are around taking these lessons deeper and looking at, maybe it's something that triggers us, and what is that saying about ourselves,
mm-hmm,
or taking a taking an opportunity to look at something really hard that's happened, and how do we make that something beautiful, right? Like I have chosen to do, or the business isn't where you thought it would be, maybe, but maybe that's because you were really meant to look over here instead.
mm-hmm,
uh, when it comes to branding, I think one thing that I've struggled with over the years is this idea that in my personal life I have very expensive taste, but I also really love and have this deep desire to help women and children and orphans and widows in developing countries. And
mm-hmm.
when I was younger, I felt really bad about the fact that I would walk into a store and pick out the most expensive thing, even if I wasn't looking at the price tags, right? Because I
Right.
thought that I needed to give every possible dollar away.
Mm,
And now I feel like it can be both, right?
mm-hmm,
My husband and I have a nonprofit we've started in Maeve's honor, and we, are really involved in our giving, and so we do that. And also, I can go get a pedicure, right? And
mm-hmm.
that's okay. And so it's moving out of that guilt place to allow,
Yes.
support others and be supported at the same time.
That is absolutely beautiful. I love all of it. I love all of it. Thank you. That really touched me because I'm with you on that. And sometimes it is that duality and the conflict that can arise with, like, am I allowed to like both of these things and do both of these things? But yes, you are. Oh my gosh. So how can people find out, how can they find you? Do you want to send them to lifewithpassion.com? Any place else?
Yeah, I have a workbook
Mm-hmm.
that I'd love to give to you if you want it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the top 5 things to do to get your first or next client.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a mix of really strategic things and mindset things that you can do and kind of work through and see where you are and help you focus on the thing where maybe you're struggling right now. And you can go to lifewithpassion.com/gutsy to get that.
Nice. Okay.
Yay!
Thank you for that. Thanks, everybody. Go
Yeah.
get it. Lifewithpassion.com/gutsy. All right, Christine, I want to know your answer to our finale question before we wrap up. What is your gutsiest move and how has it inspired your life and work today?
Hmm. I would say that my gutsiest move has been transitioning out of that full time business
Mm-hmm.
that was satisfying enough to start Life with Passion because I had to step out from hiding behind everyone else's business that I was promoting and becoming visible with my own story,
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable with my own grief and
Yes.
loss,
Mm-hmm.
struggles and triumphs.
Mm-hmm.
It also is what allowed me to step into my zone of genius, right? As
Mm-hmm.
the book The Big Leap talks about.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, like we've discussed, I found that losing Maeve and that grief gave me the courage
Mm-hmm.
to make that gutsy move,
Mm-hmm.
to get the guts to take the risk and to create that legacy for both of us. And
Absolutely.
I would say that it inspires my life and work by really supporting a life that I love and a business that I love, right? And so knowing that my community, that I am making a difference in their lives daily and that, we are walking this road together and that I've gotten to create something that's so much bigger than me and also that I feel uniquely gifted to do, like it's been worth it
Mm.
as scary and like you said, sort of throw up feeling
Yeah.
inducing as it has times
Regularly, you feel like you're going to puke.
has been
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
1,000%, worth of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so with you. And your girl Maeve is very proud of you. I know you know that. And it's just your story is remarkable. I'm so happy that you found your way, to where you are, having been hit with tragedy as a teenager. I know it can go many ways when we are hit with tragedy. And it's nice to talk to a soul sister. I haven't lost a child, but losing a sister was devastating. And I
Yes.
do know that, 20 plus years later, after that loss, I still feel her all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We were recently in Mexico, and Julie's dream was to swim with dolphins when she had cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and she never was able to fulfill that wish in her body. She's swimming with dolphins every day now, but I was able to with my family on that trip and my kids, and it was so glorious. It was so glorious, and so for Christine and I, we've lost family members,
Mm-hmm.
and I know a lot of our listeners have as well. We're never alone. I believe that the souls continue to support us, and we have spirit guides and I think when we can just give ourselves permission to feel them, to feel that energy and keep that legacy alive and to honor the voice that we have inside of ourselves about how we're meant to serve after tragedy, so that we can make this time that we have count. That's when it all starts clicking in. That's when the unthinkable starts making some kind of sense. And for me anyway, that's what it's been. That's like, what we wouldn't do to go back and change it, but we
Mm-hmm.
can't. All we can do is move forward with grace and with courage, and knowing that yes, we can do so much to keep that legacy going. So it's so awesome to know you, Christine.
You too, Jenny. I have loved this conversation.
Absolutely. And all you listeners out there, I know you've gotten something deep from this. So go out, live big today. I love what you said, Christine. What else? What else? Like, what else? Let those two words just rally everybody today. This is Jenny Fennig sending you so much love, light, and faith as you get gutsy. I will see you next time.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to Get Gutsy with Jenny Fennig. Gutsy leaders unite and ignite.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Get Gutsy as much as I enjoyed creating it for you. Are you responsible for leading and growing your spiritual business? If so, I have a free tool for you that will help you spread your message like wildfire. It's called the Sacred Marketing Puzzle, and it's a one-page PDF guide that simplifies the often mysterious and confusing world of marketing. When you use sacred marketing tools to amplify your message, you'll provide huge value to your tribe and grow your business. What are you waiting for? Go to jennyfennig.com/puzzle to get yours instantly. That's jennyfennig.com/puzzle. Gutsy leaders, unite.